This lesson is to review taking fractions, converting them to decimals, converting decimals to percents, and vice versa. So to convert a fraction to a decimal, let's just break down the parts of a fraction. We have the numerator, which is the number on top. We have the fraction bar, which we can also think about as division. And last but not least, we have the denominator. So when you are converting a fraction to a decimal, you can use your calculator, you can do long division if you so please. You are going to read this from top to bottom, and this is going to be 4 divided by the fraction bar 5. So plug that into your calculator, and you will get 0.8 as the decimal. Let's do one more example over here. So I have 1/9. I am going to take, again, read it from top to bottom, 1 divided by 9. And my calculator is going to give me 0.111111 until the calculator runs out of room. This is a repeating decimal, and the way that we show that is we use the repetend bar. So I am going to put a bar over the 1 to indicate that that 1 repeats and repeats and repeats. Try 1 through 3, and then come back and check your answers. Here are the answers. With 11/15, only the 3 repeats, so that repetend bar is only over the 3. Same thing with 2/15, only the 3 repeats. Number 3 was an improper fraction, so you're going to have a whole number here. This is 1.3 repeating. Moving on to percents. A percent, right here, means how many parts per 100. When we talk about a fraction, we can also think about that fraction bar as per. So when I have 50 out of 100, then that means this is 0.50 or 50%. It's a terrible color to go right there, 50%. To take a decimal to a percent, we can multiply by 100. So let's practice some of these in these chart right here. We have a fraction, decimal, and percent. We're gonna make equivalents across this chart. So we're gonna start with the fraction 7/8. To get it to a decimal, we are going to divide. I'm just gonna write this out so you can see what I'm doing in my calculator. You don't have to write this step if you don't want to. 7 divided by 8, and in my calculator it gives me 0.875. Now, to get it from a decimal to a percent, we can multiply this by 100, and that's going to give me 87.5%. In the next example, we're given the decimal, but not the fraction or the percent. So this time, we have to go both ways. We have to go decimal to percent, and then we have to go backwards from decimal to fraction, or we could go from percent to fraction. So let's start with decimal to percent. So again, we're going to take this decimal, we're going to multiply it by 100, and that's going to give us 70%. So now to go all the way back to the fraction, there's 2 different ways that we can do this. We can go from the decimal to the fraction, and the way we do that by going back to the place value. What place value does this decimal go out to? This is the tenths. So we know that this is 7 out of 10. If we can also go from a percent to a fraction. We know that 70% is 70 out of 100, which once we simplify will give us 7/10 either way. So there's 2 different ways to go about doing that. In the next problem, we're given the percent and we have to go find the decimal and the fraction. So if we want, we can start with the fraction. This is 20%, and we know a percent is out of 100, so this is 20 out of 100. We can simplify that a couple different ways. You can plug this into your calculator, 20 ABC 100, or you can, in this case, we can divide by 20, the numerator and the denominator. That gives us a 1/5. And then to get from a decimal, we're going to take 1 and divide it by 5 to give us 0.2. Our next example, we have the decimal of 0.25. To get to a percent, we can multiply by 100, and that gives us 25%. To go to a fraction, this decimal goes out to the hundredths place, so we know that this is 25 out of 100, which can be simplified down to 1/4. The last example is 1/10. So we can take, to get to our decimal, 1 divided by 10, and that gives us 0.1. And then to get to a decimal, to get to a percent, again, we multiply by 100. So that gives us 10%.